right. Well, good morning, everyone. I want to start off by thanking everybody for taking the time today to learn about the Twin Peaks Management Development Program. Today's webinar will be hosted by myself, Lexi Burns, and Sarah Roa. Before we get into the agenda, I have a few general notes to cover. I hope that all webinar members reviewed the communication that came out on 4/12. The attachments should have helped form any questions you may have about the program that can be answered on today's webinar. Everyone has been muted on this call. Please, if you have questions, type your question in the chat column on the far right-hand side of your screen. We will answer questions at the end when we open it up for Q&A. Today's call should be roughly about 45 minutes, and this webinar is being recorded and saved for future use. We will send out a list of all webinar attendees and this PowerPoint after we get through today's session. So let's go ahead and get started. The objective for today is to train general managers and directors the expectations and vision of the Management Development Program. All GMs and DOs will be developing assistant managers through the program in the near future. So it will be essential that all of us understand the inner workings of this program. As everybody on this call knows, the development of our managers and future leaders has to be one of our biggest areas of focus if we want to continue to increase sales and profits and grow the brand in general. Currently, we have a robust 7-week MIT program, but after an MIT graduates, we lack a structured program that supports the development of managers in all areas, leading them to general manager. The Twin Peaks Management Development Program is the structure we have created to support assistant manager to assistant general manager development. Let's take a look at the agenda for today. We will talk about the Management Development Program as a whole, and we will start off with the development path. The development path will walk us through the areas of responsibility managers will be developed in, leading to becoming a general manager. We will also discuss what the program includes, what outlines all development components within the program. We will talk about industry competencies, competencies that are specific to management development training, and what competencies we selected to create our program. We will discuss the role of a DO and a general manager. DOs and GMs, like I mentioned, will be responsible for developing managers through the program. So we will talk through the expectations and how you will learn and use the materials. And finally, we will wrap it up with key rollout dates. We will discuss the next steps and what dates need to be plugged into your calendars so that everybody is prepared. And then finally, we'll wrap up with a Q&A and answer any questions that come into the chat column. Twin Peaks Management Development Path. So as you can see here, the development path outlines all training, AORs, from hourly to multi-unit. There are 2 programs that will be rolled out in addition to the Assistant Manager to General Manager program, which will be a revised shift lead program to include coursework, activities, and revised training outline. We will also, at the end of 2017, roll the GM to multi-unit program. If you are an internal promote, you can see by the map that you will obviously go through hourly training, certified trainer, shift lead, and MIT. And as a manager candidate coming from outside of the organization, we will start them at MIT and work them through all of the modules leading to AGM to GM. This is a great illustration that just shows managers and internal promotes their career path at Twin Peaks. So what does the program include? When we talk about the structure of the program and the components, here's what we've developed. Online learning. All courses are e-learning based and will live in Peaks Point. We've structured activities that have been created for all courses to tie learning to job performance. We've created a development book list that will be part of the AOR coursework. In this program, we have put in hard, soft skill, and business acumen development. So as an example of these skills, hard skill would be an example of administration. Soft skill would be an example of learning how to give recognition, praise, and then business acumen would be more about cost controls or the P&L. Identified industry competencies. So when you look at this list, these are the following competencies that were used to create the coursework for the Management Development Program. These competencies are associated to management development in our industry. Each competency has skill sets within that competency that must be learned before gaining the results in the area. Management development structure. So as a graduated MIT, when he or she gets out, they will start with shift management as one of the 6 AORs leading to assistant general manager. Once all 6 have been mastered, the manager will start the AGM module, leading him/her to GM. You can see the modules or coursework under each AOR. These are the skill sets that must be learned within each area. After you've completed an AOR and its activities, you will then move to the next. Managers should be responsible for an AOR inside their stores, and that coursework should be taking place at the same time. Managers should not be working through multiple modules at any given time. And this, I just want to point out, is a very important part to the success of the program. Managers, when they go in, they should work one AOR or fuel gauge module at a time. So one thing I want to call out is if the manager is not getting results in an AOR, they should not move to the next AOR, even if the modules and activities are complete. Modules and activities are one portion of the program. You must master an AOR by being able to show business results in an area. The program time frame is up to the manager. He/she sets the pace for their personal development. Once again, the proof that the development in the AOR is working is when you see true business results. Development workbooks. The development workbooks have been created to guide the learner through modules using activities based on the online courses within each AOR. So each course will include learning objectives and outcomes that have tasks to accomplish at the end of the course. There'll be a set of resources or to-dos telling you where to locate any materials, books, and video to support the course. And then the learning activities. The learning activities are a very, very important part of this program. They are put in place to solidify skill. So projects that are in the workbook tie skill into business results, increasing business acumen. We've developed 3 workbooks. There is a kitchen manager workbook. We have an assistant manager to assistant general manager workbook, and then AGM to GM. So now let's talk about the role of a DO and a GM. What will be your responsibility as we roll this program? DOs and GMs must know what is being communicated in the training in order to mentor managers through the program. The goal is that the training will build a really healthy culture that thrives on the development of our managers, and with that, we must all be able to speak the language that stems from this program. Training starts at the DO and GM level and cascades down to store level management. DOs and GMs will be responsible for completing all e-learning modules. We will talk about the time frames for this at the end of the call today, but the expectation will be for our DOs and GMs to complete 2 modules a week. DOs and GMs will not be responsible for completing workbook activities, but will be expected to mentor assistants through them. So let's take a little deeper dive into the workbook activities and how we'll use them. So this is an example of an activity that we put in the training. Assistant manager completes the activity right after a module is completed. They shouldn't wait. There is information, verbiage in the actual activity that mirrors what is in the module. Each activity requires a mini GM certification, which is a series of questions the GM asks to validate knowledge. So as the manager completes the activity, the GM must then sign off. Both activities, or the activities, will require both manager and general manager signatures. Workbook development reading list. We have created a list of development reading books that are actually associated to the AORs in the program. Books have been listed and outlined based on how to develop the different skill sets within the AOR. Managers must show how they will apply the learned skill sets from their readings into day-to-day operations. One thing to point out with this reading list is if a DO or a GM has a favorite book that is not on this list that does apply to a specific AOR, you're welcome to list that book and have your team member read the book and then be able to mentor them through that book as well. We want reading outside of the standard coursework to be a part of the program to further develop our managers not only professionally but personally. The workbook tracking sheet. As we mentioned earlier, each AOR has coursework and activities that must be completed in order to master that AOR. Each module and activity must be listed and signed off by the manager and general manager on the tracking sheet. So you can see it lists here, the manager is responsible for filling out the tracking sheet. You have a module completion date, a completed activity date, and then the manager's signature. The GM is responsible for signing off stating that the manager has completed each module and activity on the tracking sheet. And then we come down to the AOR master sign-off. Once all the coursework and activities are complete and the manager has mastered the AOR, this is the time for final sign-off. Remember, mastered means that they are gaining business results in that area. Manager signs off stating that he or she has completed the AOR modules and activities. The GM signs off listing the manager's name, stating that the manager has mastered the AOR. A GM signature is required. A DO signature is required. And the manager must list 2 development books that he or she has read while going through the AOR. What takeaways came from the book and how they will apply that skill to their day-to-day. So a good rule of thumb as a DO, when you travel to stores, you should make it part of your store visit to ask the assistant manager where they are with their modules and activities. General managers must let the DO know when an assistant is ready for a final sign-off in an AOR. The sign-offs are a very important process, not only for validation, but it creates a vehicle for you to get involved with their development. They will know that you care when you sit down with them for 30 minutes and ask about the program and how they are working through it. GMs should know what books their assistants are reading, and DOs should ask about what books they are reading when they visit stores. And last but not least, we're going to talk about key rollout dates and the next steps with the program. I have Sarah here that's going to work us through the key rollouts and the checklist.
Good morning, everyone. So as you know, this week we are starting off with these webinars for the GMs and the DOs. Next week in period 5 still, you guys will receive your spirals. So within the company locations, you guys will, we are coming up with a number on how many you will each receive to make sure that you have one for every manager within the building, including KMs if they are a full-time KM and not been trained in the front of the house. The week after that, starting in period 6 on 5/22, is when we ask each of the GMs to review the key dates and training in the manager meeting so each assistant knows what to expect. They will go over the workbook expectations, the modules and activities, sign off, and their AOR status. Starting in the week of 5/30 and 31 is when your assistant managers will start their webinar training. So it'll be one similar to this so they understand what the process will be. They should know at that time what AOR they should be starting off in, and we will record it for future use. Then we are going to go down one more line to period 6 at 5:15 is when you guys, each and every single GM and DO, will be targeted the shift management modules. So as Lexi talked about, you will be targeted about 2 modules a week is going to be your completion rate. In Peaks Point, you will see there will be a new fuel gauge that is listed only shift management. So all of the shift management modules, which is that first section when we are looking at the management development structure, will be in that fuel gauge. You have 1 full period to complete all of those modules. Starting then on 6/12, we will add additional fuel gauges for front of the house, door, and bar modules into the GM and DO Peaks Point. Again, your goal is to do 2 modules a week for that next period. So each period you will have certain modules that will be added. Then we're into period 8 on 7/10. We will then add in the fuel gauges for LSM, HOH, and the AGM modules. At that time, because there is additional modules, your goal should be to do 3 modules a week. For your shift managers, for those working the program, for assistant manager to AGM, their modules will start on 6/12. So we set this up so each and every single general manager and DO will be able to complete all of their shift management modules before an assistant manager starts their modules. So for all assistant managers, they will now have the fuel gauge for shift management on 6/12. Theirs is a little bit differently because deadlines are not set for your store managers. Completion is based on a manager's desire to be developed. To help with that, we are not actually targeting the front of the house door, bar, HOH, LSM, and AGM modules until 8/7. So that gives them a little more time, and hopefully you have those that are a little aggressive to move ahead in the company that will really stay on top of completing their modules. But again, once each and every single one of those is set, there will not be deadlines on them. There are deadlines on everyone on this call today, so that way you know exactly what your assistant managers will be taking.
All right, thanks, Sarah. That wraps up the training that we have put together for the Management Development Program. If there are any questions out there, please type your question into the chat column. If we do not hear from you and you have questions where you would like to either reach out by phone or by email, please feel free to do so as well. We'll go ahead and give everybody a few minutes to type any questions you may have into the chat column.
Yes, does that make sense? Do you want me to answer that? I don't know why I can't get that one to the finger. Yes, every manager.
So there's a question about people that are already in the system, whether it is a kitchen manager or a store manager, on how they have to complete the modules. So if you have an AGM that's been promoted to an AGM, they still have to go back through and do all of the coursework in the platform. So they'll go through and they'll do all their courses for shift management leading all the way through the AGM. There's a question on, is the list of books in Peaks Point? The list of development books will be inside of the development workbook. So the question is, if you do not have a manager in every AOR, should that manager be required to take all modules, door, bar, front of the house, etc.? The answer is, before they become a general manager, they will have to have mastered all of the AORs. So the recommendation is for that person to go through one at a time and complete the coursework based on that AOR. Will there be communication through emails about deadlines as they get closer to due dates? We will send out reminders. However, I would suggest that everybody on this call take the key rollout dates and put them into your personal calendars and discuss these at every manager meeting that you have moving forward.
Because it's the part that they don't want to master. Yeah, I understand.
So I'm going to this question. Are the modules to be completed at the rate an assistant prefers, or should it go by their development level in AOR? If someone who has not mastered the shift manager position yet, but doing the bar module. The recommendation is, if you have not mastered shift management, it's probably not the best idea to have somebody own an AOR. Owning an AOR means that you are proficient in running day-to-day operations. If that's not the case, then I would start off with a smaller module, i.e. door, something that is not as sophisticated as front of the house or heart of the house AOR.
Then we're going to auto ship.
The books will be, the management development workbooks will be an auto ship to the locations. We are working through, as Sarah mentioned earlier, the distribution of the workbooks. In order for you to be able to become an AGM, yes, you have to have mastered all AORs. This question is, what about a KM that has only gone through formal kitchen manager training and not done front of the house? We did create the Kitchen Manager Development Program that is an extended development program from MIT.
Okay, we'll keep that for notes for James. I understand what that is.
How much do materials cost, and is there a charge to the restaurants for this? When can we expect to see charge if there is one? We are currently working through that as we speak. We're working to get a final quote with the printer, and we will have more information on that in the next week.
That's the last one.
I think that we've gone through all of the questions. Once again, if anybody has questions after today's training session, please feel free to reach out to myself or Sarah. And we look forward to this program being rolled out successfully and your support. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.